Hi, Miguel here. What you're about to see is a video recorded a while back. Um, I, I recorded this immediately after I read the first volume of Orange. At the time of this recording, I have read all 5 volumes. So, what I wish I knew when I first walked into the first volume of Orange is that this manga is going to deal with some very serious and very heavy topics, namely depression and suicide. So if you're uncomfortable with either of these topics or any of their implications, I really advise you turn back now. Don't watch this video or any of the videos in this series. As for if you should read the manga yourself, that's up to you to decide. It depends on how comfortable you are with dealing with the themes of suicide and depression and mental health that are covered in this manga. And if you know anyone who is currently struggling with depression or mental health issues or suicide, please reach out to them. Please let them know that you care. Let them know that better days are ahead of them, and try to make those better days for them. Try to show them that you care. Try to show them that the world really does care about them. And please be kind to everyone you meet. You never know when someone is going through something. You never know when someone is struggling with a problem that may drive them over the edge. And if you yourself are currently struggling with depression or suicidal thoughts or mental health issues of any kind, please know that you don't have to struggle alone. There are so many people in this world who are willing to help you and are more than ready to help you. And they will lend you a hand. They will listen to you. Just reach out and talk to them, I implore you. And please know that you do matter. Your life is precious, and I know that doesn't mean much coming from someone, from some random face on the internet. But believe me, if there's anything, I don't know, I may not know the circumstances behind your situation, but if there's anything I'm certain of, it is that your life is precious and that there are people who care enough to help you realize that. And I wish I could say that to every single one of you, and say it to your face and embrace you and try to convince you in person that you do matter to this world, that your life is precious. And there are resources out there that can help you realize that. There are resources out there that can help you deal with your depression and deal with any suicidal tendencies that you may have. I'll leave the links to them in the description below. Please share them with anyone you know who is currently undergoing this sort of thing, who is currently struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts. That said, if you're still here, I'm assuming you really do want to hear my thoughts on Volume 1 of Orange. So, yeah, let's get right into it. Enjoy the video. Hi, Miguel here, and this is going to be the beginning of my Orange vlogs. As of the day I'm recording this, and also on the day I upload this, I'm currently doing a vlog series on Naruto, which is going to take a while. It's 72 volumes worth of ninjas and we got through the Chunin exam, but, ninjas and, action-packed, shonen stuff. So, but I don't really want to be the channel that just focuses solely on Naruto. I want to spread out my reactions a little more. Since I'm doing a manga, I might as well do another manga, just to see how, just to keep some modicum of focus in my channel. But that said, I did want to do a manga that was less action-packed, a little bit shorter, sort of a slice of life sort of thing. So a friend of mine recommended this manga to me, Orange. And it is a sci-fi romance of a sort. And the plot of this, it's based in a city in Japan, small town in Japan, about I believe it's in the north area. I forget the name exactly. I wrote everything down except for the name of that town. But anyway, it takes place in a small town, and it involves a girl named Takamiya Naho, who receives a letter from herself 10 years in the future, detailing exactly what to do every day, exactly what she wants her to change about the things that she did in her past life. Which is an interesting concept. We've seen we've seen some time travel elements in a lot of different stories, and a lot of them have very problematic things about time travel. Like, if you change something in the past, how does it affect the future? Does it even affect the future? Like, if you go back and you correct something that happened in the past, does that really change the future? And if it does change the future, does that mean your future self would never come back to change the past in the first place? It's this whole bunch of really convoluted storylines that that generate a lot of problems for this story, which is why time travel is such a very hard thing to creatively write about. But interestingly enough, what happens here is this is kind of a reversal of the character roles in this case, because normally we take the perspective of a person from the future going back and trying to change the past and seeing how they change the past without totally ripping apart the fabric of space and time while doing so. We usually take that perspective. Here it's the other perspective. It's the perspective of the person in the past who has received notification from the person in the future about how to change the past. And it leads to a lot of interesting elements of storytelling. So Naho receives a letter from herself 10 years in the future telling her exactly what she's going to regret in the future and how to change how to make sure that she doesn't live with any regrets by doing exactly as she is told in the letter. The letter is basically telling her, do this or you'll regret it in the future, I promise you. So it's all about dodging those regrets, and also about saving someone's life. So Naho has a new student in her class from Tokyo, Kakeru, whose mother recently passed away. He actually takes a couple weeks off from school to help prepare for the funeral and to appropriately mourn. So Kakeru is the love interest in this case. He is the guy who Naho really starts to like. And right off the bat, we see that Naho does not believe initially exactly what the letter says, but the letter details each event of the day as it happens. So as she comes to understand that this letter is the real deal, she starts deciding, okay, if I follow this instruction, what happens? The future changes. If I don't follow this instruction, what happens? She ends up regretting it. She ends up finding a way to regret it somehow. So Kakeru, the main dilemma in this story is Naho finds out by reading the letter that she receives that Kakeru is going to pass away in the winter of his 17th year. And it's nice enough to include dates, which is so fantastic. I love that they include dates along with this, because it really makes you think about, okay, winter is such and so far away from here. Maybe we can, maybe we can, it helps us keep track of time, basically. And that's not something, it sounds trivial, but in this case in which we feel like there's a deadline, there's there's a moment where I'm assuming we're going to come to a moment where winter is fast approaching and you're going to realize, oh my goodness, we're almost out of time. How are we going to save Kakeru? But Kakeru is going to pass away in winter, and it is assumed that he actually might pass away by suicide, by purposely walking into a traffic accident. And this is actually really horrible timing on his part, because as of the date of this recording, this is the day after it was announced that the YouTuber Etika's body was found in the New York East River. So it's poor timing when I started to read this manga, I gotta say, because I'm still deeply affected by that. I was very much inspired by him in a lot of ways, but beside the point. Kakeru hints that it might be because he might end up committing suicide by walking into that traffic accident. So Naho is trying to prevent that. She is trying to find a way to, by following the letter's instructions, she hopes to keep Kakeru alive, to be there for Kakeru as much as possible so that he doesn't fall into this pit of despair that we assume may have led to his death. But that said, we don't know exactly what happened. We're not sure. So there are a lot of unknown a lot of unknown variables in this thing. Their friend group consists of this very like rich girl type of person who who's named Azusa, but like everyone calls her Azu. Very bubbly, but also a bit spoiled. We do see that. We have this like kind of tough girl, but also like very fiercely loyal to her friends named Takako. This like this kind of what's the word? He's very humorous, but in a like dark humor sort of way. His name's Hagita, and of course we have the soccer player, like really jock sort of person, Suwa, who reminds me a lot of if anyone has seen Your Lie in April, he reminds me of Wataru from that. Might be a character, might be a character stereotype or a character. A character caricature. Well, not a caricature, but like a trope or something. But anyway, so that's the friend group that they have, and we do see a glimpse of everyone 10 years in the future, which is nice. I like that they establish what everything is like 10 years in the future, so that we can have so that we're not left in the dark. We're not left thinking, oh, this might be like a trick from someone or something like that. But we actually do see 10 years in the future what has happened. Kakeru has passed away. He's long since passed away, and they actually left a time capsule for themselves. Letters to themselves to their 10 years themselves 10 years in the future. We do see that Naho has married Suwa. They have a child together. We notice that Azu isn't on the best terms with Suwa and Hagita. They're not as close as they were once, but they do come together one time in the future, and they read each other's letters. They look at the time capsule, and they think about like how silly they were back then, how much they dreamed too big. The letters were all about themselves and their aspirations for the future, but when they read Kakeru's letter, Kakeru only wanted the best for them, because it seemed like he knew that he wasn't going to have a future. So that leads us to think, oh, maybe he purposely walked into that traffic accident. And maybe if we had been there more for him, if we had supported him more, this wouldn't have happened. So that I'm assuming that's going to lead to Naho writing the letter to herself 10 years in the past and trying to figure out how we're trying to figure out how that actually happened, how it actually happened that letter made it to Naho in the past. And there are also a lot of timeline things, like whenever Naho follows the instructions on the letter, how does it change the future? Does the future Naho that sent that letter back still exist now that Naho has followed at least some of the instructions in the letter, thereby dodging some of the regrets that future Naho is going to have? How does it affect the future? We don't know. It's so interesting. And there are a lot of things that once Naho starts really following the instructions to the letter, like really every instruction, she starts noticing that some things that future Naho says on the letter changes to reflect a more reflect a more positive outlook on on things that happened in her life. Like, now the future has changed because I made some decisions that my future self told me to do. But then there are a lot of that raises a lot of questions, like, does this actually change anything? How does this help? Is there something that we're missing? And I'm beginning to wonder if if the result isn't going to change much. Is Kakeru still going to die after all this? It's very interesting. This is a very good setup for a story. I'm really, really enjoying it. And we also see how different it is for Naho in the future to regret something and wish that she had done something, and Naho in the present to say, okay, I know I'm going to regret this in the future, but I just can't do it now. Like, I just can't bring myself to, like, confess my feelings to Kakaru, or to tell him not to go out with someone. It's Kakaru at one point goes on starts going out with an upperclassman named Ueda Senpai. Ueda, I believe. Senpai is just a title. But anyway, Kakaru starts going out with her, and it starts becoming a very, like, it's kind of a one-sided relationship. Ueda is really possessive, and it makes Naho really start to regret not telling Kakaru how she felt directly. But she still manages to at least change a little bit, because Kakaru tells her that he wants to break up with her. They're saying that there was someone else that he had fallen in love with, and all these little things that Naho says. Naho doesn't at this point follow the instructions to the letter because she can't bring herself to do it. But the little changes that she does make still shifts the future in a different manner than it did for the other Naho, the one who sent the letter. This is going to get really confusing really fast because I keep referring to two different Nahos, one in the past and one in the future. But anyway, yeah, great setup. I really like Kakaru's character. I love Naho. I love the way that she interacts with her future regrets, and tries to, like, reason with how she's going to approach the day based on the regrets that she's told she's going to have. As for the rest of the cast, I like them. I'm not really feeling Hagita and Takako yet. I don't think I know enough about them. Takako I know a little more about than Hagita. Takako, fiercely loyal to her friends. She's going to say, like, when Ueda starts dating Kakaru, she says she actually manages to pull Kakaru away from the rest of his friends, and Takako goes like, I'm going to lay her flat for doing that, and I'm like, okay. But I still have yet to see anything like that really pops out based on what we've seen of her. We've seen even less of Hagita, in my opinion. I haven't seen too much of Hagita. I don't know a whole lot about him. So I'm hoping that in future volumes we get to know him a little better. Azu, she's okay. She's very bubbly, very spoiled, rich person type. But, like, as the people in the friend group who, like, who are there alongside Naho and Kakaru, I think they play their role really well. They display their personalities in the way that they interact with each other, like on a day-to-day basis. Like, hey, what are your plans for lunch? Oh, my mom packed me lunch. Or I had to make my own lunch. I don't have lunch. That kind of thing. Those different interactions in those different situations are really what allow Naho and Kakaru to stand out as characters within that friend group. But I'm really hoping that they also gain at least small character arcs of their own. Suwa is the one character who gained my notice out of everyone else in the friend group besides Naho and Kakaru. Not only because he actually marries Naho in the future and has a kid with her, but also because he's the only one who understands that Naho has feelings for Kakaru, and I'm starting to wonder if he also has feelings for Naho in that regard, due to them, again, partially due to them being married in the future. So it's really interesting, I think, that how Suwa is taking the knowledge that Naho likes Kakaru, and he supports that, and he's also there to comfort Naho whenever Kakaru has a problem that really bothers Naho. When something really bothers, when he can tell when something bothers Naho. Naho doesn't really express her, her concerns as well as everyone else does. But he is the one person who is able to tell. So I really like Suwa. I'm glad he has a very... Excuse me. I'm glad he has a very pivotal role in this story, and I'm glad to see him... I'm glad to see him showing us the vulnerable side of Naho in a way that we don't really see when she's alone or when she's with Kakaru. So anyway, that's volume 1 of Orange. I'm really enjoying it so far. It's an interesting premise. It's a fantastic premise, and I really like our two main characters. I kind of wish some of the other side characters got a little more time to develop, but I'm hoping we'll see that more in the future. Maybe, like, future me will look back on this and say, like, hey, Heads up, no. But anyway, all jokes aside, I will see you guys for Volume 2.